Hola friends, welcome to the Medicine, Marriage, and Money YouTube channel, the only channel for physicians who want to achieve marital interdependence and financial freedom together. On this channel, you will learn how to show up as the best version of yourself so that you can love intentionally and build a more financially savvy relationship with your spouse. And I am your host, a physician mom, a doctor's wife, a Gottman leader, a certified life and marriage coach, Dr. Kate Mangona. Welcome. Bienvenidos.
Hello, sweet friends. Today, I have the honor of turning the interview camera around. I have the pleasure of interviewing Kate Mangona for this week's episode. Instead of being the interviewer, she is the guest, spilling it all about her relationship around the three things we talk about on this podcast: marriage, money, and
medicine, marriage, and money. Thanks for hearing me, Lisa.
That not be more thrilled. The heat is on. The heat is on. There are so many things that I've been wanting to ask her. This is an episode you do not want to miss. Hello. I am so excited today. You are in for a treat. I am here to introduce my friend, my partner in this endeavor, and an all-around amazing human, Dr. Kate Mangona.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa, for interviewing me today.
I am so excited. Let me tell you all about her. She is a board-certified pediatric radiologist. She's a supportive physician wife, which we know is a role in and of itself. She's a mother to three adorable little girls and a mini poodle. She's a certified life and marriage coach. She studied at the Gottman Institute, the Life Coach School, and she hosts where we all love seeing her. I personally love to tune in just to see her gorgeousness. She just has a flair and a style and an aliveness that I think we all appreciate at the Medicine, Marriage, and Money podcast, Facebook group, coaching programs. These are her amazing creations where she helps married physician parents spend less time arguing with their spouse, reuniting the sparks that they once felt, and really empowers mothers because it's so easy to get caught in a bit of resentment, in the endless to-do lists, in the unfairness that's our role as mothers because it's so much giving. She really has had some amazing mindset and techniques that helps mothers and partners overcome these, which we know is such a big deal. I am so excited to have you. And I'm so excited for this conversation because I have wanted to ask you things and now I get to.
Oh no, now I'm nervous, Lisa. I am totally nervous.
I'm so when we talked about the MAJ, I was like, oh my God, that's so Kate. You have so much magic, so much wisdom. And I think you make it look easy. I don't know if you've been told this, but I think there's a sense, and I think a lot of women physicians can relate to this. Like people on the outside are like, oh, it's no big deal. It's easy. She's flying here. She's flying there. The three kids are in matching outfits and, Victor and a side business. Like how did you come to spin all these plates and make it look easy? Like, can you just share with us the inside scoop?
Let me just tell you, people see what they want to see, Lisa, because I have been told that before. And so I am very intentional about what I share on social media and real life. Like, I don't hide when my children is crying. Like if I am recording, I share stories every single day of my children. If one of my kids hits the other kid or she's throwing a tantrum and that happens to be the moment I'm recording, I share it. I still hit share. Like one time one of my children was hiding in a box and it tipped over and she fell over out of the box. And I think I still hit share. Like things happen. And so, but people don't see that. Like they see, oh, they're in matching outfits. That one time they went to the airport out of the 10 trips they went on and they remember it. But did you see those 9 other times that they weren't in matching outfits? or that they were screaming or hitting, or I had to put myself in timeout. Like, or that like this weekend, we went to her 25-minute ballet class, my 2-year-old's 25-minute ballet class, and we were 17 minutes late because I thought it started 15 minutes later than it did. And so we made it for the last 7 minutes of ballet class. Like, that is my real life. And I try and be real about sharing that. But I think people find it more humorous because I make it a little bit more like, well, I have to get on and, I like talking about it. And so I find it humorous myself. I laugh at myself all the time. Like, that's the only way for me to keep my anger or my frustration and resentment, quite frankly, if we're getting deeper here, at bay. Like, I make real life situations that I find myself in all the time. Like, believe me, I've booked the restaurant in Dallas, in Utah. Like, there's one in Utah and Dallas. I book the Utah one every time. Like, that's my life. And so I still, all those things though, what don't matter at the end of the day, it's who am I spending time with? Like, I don't care if I'm living in my house or my apartment or an Airbnb or the apartment. It's like, who am I surrounding myself with? And in person, on social media, the podcasts, the books I listen to, what matters is the connection I have with the people I surround myself with, the love that we share, and how we show up. So yes, the answer to your question is I have been told that I make things look easy, especially traveling with 3 little kids. And that's because I am sharing with you my tips of how I get through it. Because if I didn't create these tips for myself, then I wouldn't travel. And I'd stay at home and I'd be sad, I'd be sulking, and that's no way to live life.
I love it. And you didn't have to be a coach. None of us that are physicians have to be coaches. We have full-time careers. We have full lives. We do this because we learned something of value. We learned something that felt life-saving, and we want to share it. So I just want to get like a little bit nitty gritty, because many women, with as much as you have on your plate, because I focused on the marriage and the mommying, but you have a whole, real estate business. I mean, there's so many facets to your life. Many women fall into martyrhood. And I think martyrhood, we hear more often in the physician circle as burnout and things like that. I know you have your own story about how you've overcome that when you touch that a little bit. If you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just start off by when I got married, was it 8 or 9 years ago? Oh, 9 years ago. My husband's passion, and I didn't know this at the time, but it was real estate, and it's numbers. Like, he is an Excel junkie. And so when we graduated fellowship together and became attendings, we started going to these real estate meetups, just like happy hours, just for fun. I thought it was for fun. We'd go and have guacamole and chips and wine and talk to the people who were doing and weren't really necessarily physicians. Like, we were the only physicians. And it took a while for me to realize, we're doing this so that we can build our wealth, so that we can invest. Like, I was thinking, well, we don't have any of the skills anybody has. Anyway, that's like a whole nother story, but that was his passion. And I just want to share that because I allowed it to also become my passion, not my only passion, right? Like, we're all multi-passionate people here. I saw the love of numbers and the security, like the mental stability and safeness that comes with building wealth for your family, for future generations, in order to donate to here and there. I was on board, and it made him alive. And then it made me alive, making him alive. And I think we also, several years down the road, went through the coaching journey together, where then I jumped on the coaching train. And that was a point in our marriage that I feel like everybody's marriage kind of turned upside down. Everybody's relationship, whether you were in a marriage or not. A lot of people went through divorce. It was called COVID, right? The beginning of COVID and the middle and the thick of COVID. And my husband and I decided to live separately because of germs, because of the virus. He was seeing immunocompromised patients in a clinic where he saw pediatric cancer patients on a daily basis. And I was in the hospital, and we didn't want to cross-contaminate each other. This was back the very first week, right? It was announced. We isolated from each other immediately. We had actually just come back from a trip. So he moved into a hotel near his office. I stayed home. I had an au pair. I also had my mom drive down immediately from Kansas to help me out, because I did work a lot, and we had a lot of radiology, real estate. I wasn't into coaching yet. And then I have 2 kids. And I just kind of saw the writing on the wall. So I had her come down. I didn't know how long we were going to be apart. And when we got together on weekends, we were distanced and we were masked. So there was no physical touch for a couple months. And I didn't think that would affect me. Like physical touch, I did not consider as my love language when I had read that book several years prior. But I think if you read that book, 5 Love Languages, you kind of need and want, maybe desire a little bit of every one of them. And so I was affected in this like kind of lonely, isolated way. Whereas my husband saw things as just data. Well, these are numbers. Like we're doing this until we know more. We're doing this until the data comes out, until the vaccine comes out, like until we know we're safe. And to him, it was just, it wasn't really a price we paid. And it really wasn't a deprivation or like, he wasn't feeling deprived. He was just feeling, this is just the way it is. We're a physician family. And I was like, what? Well, what about my feelings? So I was just like, so that's when I knew there was something not in alignment and I needed help. It wasn't that our relationship necessarily needed help or he needed help. It's that I needed help. I didn't realize that at the time. So I signed up for
I'm just going to be spontaneously moving as the lawnmower is now going off. Welcome to the blooper version Hawaii.
Beautiful, beautiful place, by the way. Oh my gosh. I will say I'm just
I apologize, everybody, for the lawnmower. We're in real life.
Yeah. Real life, honestly. So I will say, Lisa, that's when I started my coaching journey and it changed my whole life. I realized that our relationship was rock solid, amazing. There was nothing wrong with it. It was the way I was perceiving, right? Not being touched. It was the way, what I thought those masks every time we met, I was not seeing things through his lens, only through mine. And that's okay. And that's normal when you're so lonely and you're isolated. And that's why you need a coach to kind of lift you out of that and reflect your thoughts back at you, show you, oh my gosh, is that really in your head? Like, how can we work with that? How can we go with that? And that's what started my whole coaching journey. And then I started joining another coaching program and then another one. And then I had my husband come with me for the 3rd coaching program because he's like, oh, you can't just join all the physician coaching programs. I'm like, oh, you know what? If I can't join all of them, you're going to join the next one because we've got to be in this one. So he joined. I was along with him for the ride on that one. He grew so much. Like, I mean, you think when you married a genius, like there's nowhere to go, but there's just more and more and more. So I think we understood each other better. He understood my love and passion for coaching. I quickly decided to go into life coach school after that 3rd coaching program that I did with him. And so that's where my journey comes from, is because I know how important this work is. And I know that majority of physicians don't have access to coaches and don't even know about coaches. And so it's just my mission to do this one physician at a time.
I love it. What I love about the stories is like, I literally see the 10 different people that you had to be, the 10 different things that it would have been easy for you to fall into, but you decided to move your focus in this direction, like reorient, and all of a sudden your life took on this whole new meaning and direction. I just see it unfold, and I think there's so much richness in there. And I think a lot of times we go through life and then we're here and it's like, oh my gosh, there was so much in there. So, what I'm hearing is that, and this is interesting because I was just reflecting back on my interview with Kenya Stevens, and she talks about the transitions of a relationship and how, people label it as polyamory, loving different people, but in a long-term relationship, you're loving different people. It's the same skill applied.
Yes.
And so that's why we created this summit for women that are married, women that are looking, women that are like, because it's different skills applied to the same circumstance, and they all apply. And when sisters are isolated, because I see each woman as a sister, we don't get to talk about the other parts, So I absolutely love that. I love feeling like you all went through a serious stress and transition. And as we talked about in The Mother, you realized that you had needs. and you had to get those met, or you had to think about them differently. Like you had to get real with the fact that you had needs that weren't being met, and that meant something to you. And it would have been really easy to fall into a martyrdom. But as we know, the martyr gets healed by feeling like life has meaning, connecting to that deeper meaning. That's how we walk with our magic. That's how we walk with our wisdom. So I'm like, you embodied all of it. I think to realize so many of us feel burnt out, and we think it's burnout because it just seems like we're giving all this service and there's no meaning to it.
Yeah.
And you came up with a beautiful meaning. I know it's, I mean, I don't know your husband personally, but it's not a light thing, the real estate. It's not I think I just want to make a lot of money. He has a deep story being I believe a first generation immigrant, and what this means for your family. And you really went behind that, you were behind that and developed this great meeting, which I think so served him. And I think a lot of people would have perhaps gotten resentful, Oh,
it's absolutely.
Louder and louder. I'm like so intrigued by the loud mowing that gets louder and louder.
Oh no, I don't hear it. But I will tell you that yes, like his parents immigrated over here from the Philippines in the 70s, 80s. And in order to start building wealth, because if you're not immigrants, if you are immigrants, you know this, but if you're not, just so you know, like when immigrants come over here, it's like they have to start all over again. It's like the wealth they had in their previous country or country of origin is not the same as the wealth they have here. They have to like start from scratch. The same thing with like physicians. You can't just come over here and become find a job. You have to like go through the fellowship process. You have to like do 4 times as many fellowships as everyone else. Like you are put at a disadvantage. So his parents worked 3 shifts. Like they worked in the hospital. His mother is a nurse, 2 shifts. She would come home. She'd be the janitor at his school so that she would have, so that's how he got tuition to go to this private school, because you sent your kids to public school in Detroit, you were in trouble. And then they also did real estate on the weekends, because that's how they saw them being able to survive here in America, and then also being able to their cousin family over.
First immigrant children. I saw that in my father. It's 1 generation from me. There's a lot, and kind of same story, I believe. It would be very easy to fall into the martyr when you feel like it doesn't have meaning, or if the meaning isn't by your partner, right? Like if you had said, you just care about money and your own work, like some kind of misplaced meaning. I think we do that a lot especially in busy households. It's easy to disconnect and make up stories about each other's motives, rather than really listening to the deep meaning behind our partners and what they do. And then, we can feel very misunderstood when the deep meaning of what we do is misunderstood by our partners. Because I think we don't do things lightly.
Oh, absolutely.
I take on real estate as I think I was a little bored. There's some really deep, meaningful stories when we really connect and get intimate with people. So how have you kept that in your marriage? And, how do you do it in your marriage? How do you stay intimate and connected with the raising of 3 young kids? Because it looks different when you have 3 young kids. And now that my youngest is the age of your oldest, and I've moved to a different phase, I'm like, oh, I wish people told me it was a phase, and I'm like, but it's gone on for 10 years. I didn't fully get it.
But yeah, phase. Do you want your phase for 10 years to be miserable? No. So what I decided to do is I decided to start asking for help. And this is actually what I learned when we started going to these real estate meetups. We looked at the most successful people in the room, and they knew how to ask for help. They knew how to prioritize what only they could do, maximize the value of their time, and they knew how to delegate things that other people could do, even if say you hire a housekeeper, or somebody's mowing your lawn right now. I don't even know if that's your partner or somebody you've hired. Say if it's somebody you're hired. What if they don't do the lawn exactly the way you want it? What if they don't fold your laundry or put away your dishes exactly the way you want it? That's okay. You know what? Because you just got back an hour of your time, and you probably paid them so now they can go feed their family and you're getting all that back. It's all coming back to you, right? So I learned how to delegate the minimum wage activities in my life, almost all of them. I also learned that my time that
and you gave mission, right? Yeah. Because the story will tie us in. It feels like our identity. Like, I am the martyr. This is all that I am. And a martyr does not ask for help, does not ask for support. And so it takes an allowing and a receiving muscle to be able to let that in and to let yourself be more than the story.
Absolutely. And Victor and I are very aligned in that way. And we kind of went through those processes together. Okay, first, let's hire a housekeeper. Okay, now let's hire au pair. Okay, now let's hire a nanny. And the babysitters came in too. Like I have a list, I would say, of about 7 people that I can call to come take care of my kids at any one time. At any time. Say my nanny is sick, which she has never been sick in 3 years. She did have a family funeral once in 3 years she had to go to. That's the only day. But say I had 3 different people I could have called that could have come during the day. I do that because I am not going to say, oh, well, I have to stay home today from work or say it was something else I had planned. I'm not going to say, well, I have to stay home today because my husband's job is more important than mine. Like, no, we both have very important jobs. Neither of us have to stay home unless we want to. Like, unless we genuinely want to. If my child was so sick or in the hospital and I'm going to be with her, The same thing with how intentional we are on our weekends. I do not mind going to ballet and gymnastics on Saturdays and Sundays during the midday because I am working during the week. That is my time I get to be with my kids and share in their growth. And then Saturday nights, I'm going to be with my husband, like almost every single Saturday night, with the exception of maybe a 40th birthday party. I am going to just put that on the calendar. My babysitter knows it. If my babysitter can't come, her cousin's going to come, so somebody's going to come every Saturday night between the hours of 6 and 10. And that is a time for us to reconnect from the busy, chaotic week that is going to go on for eternity. Like I don't see it getting calmer anytime soon. All of my friends with older children just say it keeps getting busier and busier and more chaotic in just a different way. It's a little bit less dealing with emotions and more dealing with schedules, or, probably emotions too. Maybe just.
You have 3 girls and my oldest are preteens periods, and there's a lot. There's
so more
other happening. But, I love so much of that because I hope that people watching can tune into, like, where have you been taught that you can ask for help? And then it's also a mindset. I remember when I was very burnt out, it's like the more burnt out I got, the more I paradoxically felt like I had to take on. It's like I brought myself into this downward spiral. It wasn't like I have so much on my plate and so I should release it. It was like, I have so much on my plate, so I must be a martyr. Where else can I martyr myself? And it felt, truthfully, until I discovered some of the beautiful things that you did about intentionality. And as women, we create meaning for our families. You're creating meaning in the prioritization of your relationship, which we know is so hard, modeling that for your girls, creating a model where you are a working mom and, unapologetically, this is my work time and this is the time that you get with me, and work always wants more time. And quite honestly, kids always want more time until they're teens, in which case they don't want any time. And I have to walk behind them in the mall. And then they come and give big hugs behind the scene. It's so weird. But I love that because I think that's part of the magic that we create as women, is that we create meaning. Otherwise, we're just going through life.
Absolutely. And so that's what it is. I mean, a lot of people, they feel disconnected from their spouse. A lot of people who come to me, and I feel like it's because they don't create that space. They're not intentional about scheduling time with their spouse. They've let their work take over. They've let their children take over. And that's bad. Not that that's bad, because we all have to learn, like we all go through these learning experiences. Like I went through it too. It's just I'm out of it several years. And it's because of that's what society expects of us. Like it's not your fault. That's what Hollywood portrays. That's what social media portrays. That's what some of our neighborhoods, like what's what you see, and so people, well, what if they look at me funny? If I don't stay home, what if they look at me funny if I do leave work early?
Yeah. And what has your feedback been from other women? Because I find that women tend to judge other women the harshest. And that goes back to that mother archetype that we talked about, but it's in us, who is she to just work these hours? Who is she to only see her kids this amount of time? This can really be a way that we act this judgment. I don't know if you experienced anything like that. I know I did as a resident mom.
You know what? I wasn't a resident. I wasn't a mom as a resident. So I never had to worry about that. Now I have had, I feel like when I was pumping, when I was like back at work pumping, I did feel this kind of like eyes upon me. Well, not by everybody, but just by like maybe one or two people, like, why is she pumping for 20 minutes every 3 or 4 hours? Or you're almost done with that, right? Like, I think somebody said that actually, like, you're almost like, cause I think I had a sign on the door and I wasn't available enough for the techs. And yeah, so my boss had to have a talk with me. It's like, well, you're almost done with that, right? I'm like, oh, what does that even mean? I'm almost done with that. How do you know when I'm going to be done pumping? Yeah, luckily or not, I don't know, luckily or not, but so those microaggressions, I will say, fortunately, I have not experienced so many except for that one time. But I am also very wellness focused. Like I'm the wellness champion in my workplace. And so I don't allow some of these conversations to be had. Like if I'm leaving, if I want to go see my daughter's, what is it, like a conference, and I need to leave for an hour during the day, or I need to take them to an appointment for an hour and come back, and I wake up early to do my work and I stay a little bit late to finish my work. Like I don't allow anybody to say anything about it. And if they do, like, it's really not my business. Like it's not going to affect me and how I work and how I perform and how I treat and diagnose the children that I read imaging studies for. So, and interesting enough, Lisa, we're on this topic now. There is this rule in my workplace, and I don't know if it's in other places, but if a physician is absent for less than 4 hours in one workday for like an appointment, a doctor's appointment, taking your kid, then you actually don't have to take a sick day or even half a sick day, because we're not working by the hour. We're a salaried. So we're just expected to get all our work done. So if I'm at a doctor's appointment from 8 to 10 and I get to work later, then I just make sure meetings are covered, or make sure people who need to be there are there. And then I get all the work done when I return. So I guess what I'm saying is people may talk and they may say things. I don't open my ears to that. And I also am very, very confident in the way I do operate and take care of my children first, my husband first. And, the children at my work still come first too, but it's not like I guess you can't really compare them. They're just different. And that's how I live my life.
I always say it's like when you have multiple kids, you love them all equally, and you don't really understand till you're a mom that the love of your work kids doesn't take away from the love of your home, your kids, or it's like love is just ever expansive. You just create more and more love. It doesn't take away, yet you may have a focus somewhere else. Like I tell my kids all the time, you may love me, but you still want to go to school and be with your friends. Like we love variety. So
yes, exactly. Yes, that's exactly it. You can't just make one list and be like, oh, this is the importance of my life,
Back to being multifaceted, right? Multi-passionate, multifaceted, and having all these parts of you expressed. And I love what you said, because I think so many people feel like I can't be a mother while I'm being a doctor. I can't be a doctor and answer a call while I'm being a mother. And that may be true, but you're only one human. So you can be everything all at the same time and know your institution's policies or stand to create something like that. And I could say, even as a hospitalist who's technically paid by the hour, I've worked in a group where, if you had a doctor's appointment, someone else will cover you and carry the pager for a few hours, and it's not a big deal. And that's really what you want to, that's how you want to show up as a team player. And that's what you want to, if you're watching this and you're new to your career, you're thinking of what kind of jobs, what should be important, those little things actually are quite important. So that you can kind of be both, but also it can be fun to just feel the parts of you that are just a mom and just feel that frequency and do nothing else, and just feel the intellectually, all those stimulating parts as just a physician and focus on nothing else. That could be fun too. What are your favorite deep meanings, gratitude practices that you do as a family? Because I know that you're about creating that intergenerational wealth, but not just the money, right? It really is an intergenerational wealth, which means something.
Yeah.
It means a freedom and there's a wealth mindset beyond just the money. And I know you both cultivate that well in your family.
Okay. So gratitude practices as a family. And yes. Okay. So I will say, I like to ask my children. Okay, so let's start with the wealth thing first. Because I definitely, Victor and I are very, very cognizant of the fact that while we are building our wealth and while we invest in real estate and our kids have an amazing house and we all have very nice cars, like it's very different than we grew up. I grew up in cars where there were holes. Like if you lift the mats, there was holes, like the Flintstones car. You could just put your feet and go through. When we went through the drive-through to wash our car, we had to hold the towels up to make sure the water wouldn't fill the car. Because my family just was in a different phase of life when I was born. And so we're very cognizant. We don't want to raise entitled children. We don't want our kids to think. So, we do things like donation days, and I will have my children go around their playroom or go around the house, and they have to fill a bag with stuff we're going to donate. And I get like that because too much stuff, like we have a lot of stuff in this house, but too much stuff, and that drives me nuts to a certain extent. And that's all. It's not just let's purge and throw it away, but let's take some of the stuff that's actually still nice and still usable, we just don't need anymore, and donate that. And my children are so funny. They had one of their friends over the other day who they're living in a townhouse. And so the mom, when she came over, she's like, oh, my daughter would love a playroom like this. Like we just don't have the space to have a playroom like this. And, and so before she left, my oldest daughter made sure that she had at least 2 toys to walk away with, because she's like, oh, she probably doesn't have very many toys. We should give her some. I'm like, I don't think she doesn't have any toys. That's not exactly what her mom said, but like they know that they have. And if there's anything, if my daughter ever starts to be like, oh, well, our house isn't big as theirs. When we walk into this person's house, the stairs aren't right there next to the front door. They've got a big foyer space. And I'm like, okay, well, let me tell you, you're going to be having to sell a lot of lemonade. And and this is how you get to have this house. And I also want to be careful and not teach my kids to trade their time for money. So yes, they'll learn how to make my 5-year-old did a lemonade stand. She's going to learn how to save, make, invest money. But she's also going to learn the importance of working smart and not just hard. And that may come with owning a business, not just being an employee. I mean, it's fine and great to be. I actually love being an employee now that I own my own business too, because there's it's a whole different level of stress. Right. So I think the donations, talking about how we make and save our money and why, and then coming back to the gratitude. The types of exercises I like to talk about with my kids are, I just like to ask them, like when they come from school, who made you laugh today? Or tell me about when you laughed. And then I even ask, did you cry? Did you cry today? And, a lot of people will say, like, what were you grateful for? I don't always start with that. I like to get in a little bit more emotions. Like, let's make the full platter of emotions. That's kind of some of the stuff we do.
It's like not just what you do, it's how you do it. Like I can feel it when you said it. Like, so what are you grateful for? Right? It's like that mother archetype again. Did you say sorry when you ... And like there's this little kid that's just like, no, I didn't. It's because I didn't want to. It's tapping into the emotions and feeling your own emotions and feeling where you're at. Because I think a lot of physicians, a lot of high achieving women, high achieving families that didn't come from money really wrestle with, but how will they be grateful? And then it's like, you should be grateful. Do you know what we had? Do you know what I had to do? That is not inspiring and uplifting. It's a bit of an art. It's a bit of an art.
And I will tell you, Lisa, like, I try not to go down that path. Like, I will tell them stories of my childhood. Well, when I was a child, but it's never in a demeaning way. And the grateful thing, I have caught myself in a trap. I will tell you, is like around Easter, we were going to the bakery. We were going to get ice cream or the bakery or something. And I said, okay, you get to pick one, ice cream or the cupcakes. And we went to go get ice cream. They picked ice cream. And then we're walking past the cupcake store on the way to the car and like, oh, well, can we get cupcakes too? And my mind immediately went to, why can't they just be grateful? We just had ice cream. We didn't have to have anything. You give them something and then they want even more. And then I calm myself down. This is all internal. I didn't burst out, although I could have easily. And I was like, you know what, Kate? They're 4 years old. At that point, they were 1, 3, and 5. I'm like, they are being 1, 3, and 5-year-olds. Like, what do we do? What do I do after I buy a Chanel bag? Then I walk back to the Hermes store and I'm like, oh, but I would love that Hermes bag. I mean, I'm just saying, but I don't actually,
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh. That is such a brilliant parenting tip. I use that and I have to actually kind of train my mom, if she's watching this, to appreciate the desire. It doesn't mean that they have to have it and you have to figure out how to do it. Oh my gosh, those cupcakes look amazing. I could see why you want one. And that's it. I moved my kids to Hawaii and they were like, Mommy, look at those horses. I want a horse for the backyard. I was like, you live in Hawaii and you think I can get you a freaking horse? Are you out of your mind? And then I realized, like, maybe how cool would that be? I mean, like, I think one of the things we lose sometimes as adults is the imagination and the fantasy and the fun of it. Because we get realistic in adults. And so I try to indulge that. But I don't.
You could have a horse.
Buy the damn horse.
What if you could have 10 horses, Lisa?
So we talked about so many things and there's so much beauty in the life that you've created. You really have an art of creating beautiful things. Your children, your family, your career, the way you stand for yourself. There's a beauty about you that I think everyone appreciates. So what last thing would you like to leave everybody with? While I just appreciate you and the beauty that you are and that you've created in this world life that we're living. It's crazy with the craziness.
I want to leave you. I want to leave you with 3 things. I want to leave you with, it is your decision to make right now. Like today, this very moment, you can make the decision whether you want to create this magic in your home, in your relationships, inside of yourself. It is only up to you. It's your first decision. Number 2, you have no one to ask for permission but yourself.
Do you have it?
Do you feel it?
Because what I was thinking is how you look at the world. It's that quote that I keep. It's that when you look at the world differently, the things you look at change. And I love what you just offered everybody. Right now, you can look for what's right, what's working, what's beautiful, knowing that the rest will always be there.
Yes.
A place for it, but it's a conscious choice, and I think it's especially when things are tested, because things are working, you just say, you don't think about it. You're like, well, look at me, and everything's working. When things are a little bit off, a little bit stressful, a little bit, that's really that deep cultivation to how can I focus on what's right, what's beautiful.
Absolutely. And when you find that, when you focus on the connection, then you feel connected. When you focus on all the disconnection and, I don't know who they are anymore, I don't know then that's what you see. So your choices, your decision, you don't need permission. You can start today. And then there's also the, of course, like the allowing, like, of course, you don't have enough time. Well, of course you don't have enough time. You didn't create enough time. Oh, well, they said that to you. Of course they said that to you, or they didn't make it. Whatever it is that you might feel upset or irritated or resentful about, can you just start being like, accept it? Like, of course. Like, how can you accept your reality? Because if you fight with reality, you lose 100% of the time. And that was a beautiful quote that I did not coin, but Katie Byron did. So I'll leave you with that.
Yes. The present is your reality. Accept it. If you fight it, you will lose 100% of the time. So good. So wise. Such a madge.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this interview, Lisa.
Where can people find you besides the summit that you'll be at all week?
Besides the summit, yes, you can totally throw some DMs to me and Lisa if you have any questions about our course that we're going to be holding in September as a continuation of this summit. And you can find me at Medicine, Marriage, and Money. I've got 123 podcasts you can go listen to. I've got my YouTube channel, Medicine, Marriage, and Money, which is about 15 episodes so far. So reach out. We're here.
Oh my God, I love it. I want to be on your podcast again, by the way.
I also have a downloadable 18-page workbook, e-journal that you can download if you go to my website, medicinemarriageandmoney.com. And it talks about the 5 most common causes of divorce: money, in-laws, parenting, household chores, and intimacy. And it's just like a little, we'll cover a lot of that in the summit, but it's just a little like journal workbook that you can download on my website.
Yes, I love that. And I think every relationship group I'm in, people ask, I think there's something about Gottman. Where can I find a therapist, a counselor? Like Kate is right here. She has studied and is certified in the Gottman method. So really, like, one correction,
I am considered a Gottman leader, not certified in the Gottman, because I've taken, you have to like go past these different levels. So I'm considered a Gottman leader.
Perfect. A Gottman leader who's a woman. Thank you for correcting me. We want to be, dot our T's, dot our I's, cross our T's. But so many people are interested in this and how to apply it to their lives. And you have like the perfect person to do that with, because you walk it. I know how you work with this knowledge. You don't just learn something, you walk it into your life and you integrate it. So beautiful. So beautiful.
Thank you, Lisa.
Amazing. All right.
If you are finding the concepts I teach in these episodes useful and want more in-depth and personalized support for your relationship, consider this your invitation to join me in creating the most connected and intimate relationship with your spouse that you could dream of. Go to www.medicinemarriageandmoney.com right now and download my 18-page medical marriage survival guide and workbook at no cost to you. I also have a 6-day marriage challenge, which goes over the 6 predictors of divorce at no cost to you. These have been known to decrease fighting, rumination, and grudges between you and your loved one. If you want to take it a step farther, really enhance the joy and connection in the most intimate relationship in your life, sign up for my 8-week Making Marriage Work program today at medicinemarriageandmoney.com. Thanks for leaving us a stellar review, subscribing, and sharing with your friends on social media. You have the power to improve someone else's life and marriage simply by sharing this episode. Much love to you and your spouse. You're exactly where you need to be in this moment. Adios, my friends. The content of this episode is not intended to be a substitute for professional, medical, or financial advice. The opinions provided on this episode are those of myself or the invited guest alone. They do not represent the opinions of any particular institution. Always seek the advice of your physician or financial advisor with any questions you may have of a medical condition or financial plan. This is for your entertainment only.